anybody could, practice their own religion, as long as it didn't interfere with somebody else, that they could practice their own religion here with the freedom.
As
And
long as you don't hurt somebody else.
somebody else. And that's the thing. At this point, people's religious beliefs, I don't have any problem if that's what they believe, but to try and make it law, and it ends up harming a lot of women, especially women that want these pregnancies. And if you are anti-abortion, go for it. Go out, pick it, try to convince somebody to keep it. If it's just not convenient for them, or have the baby and give it up for adoption, whatever you feel like doing, but to make it a law when it's the consequences is what's happening. Women
we're legislating morality. We're legislating morality. That's your body. That's your body. You should decide whether to have a baby or not. All the rest of it doesn't matter. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a lot of religions
for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, but there's a lot of religions that don't believe the way that Christianity believes. There's Judaism or Islam or other religions. There's a lot of other religions, and people may not be aware of them, but that's the beauty of separation of church and state. And so to inflict a certain religious belief into that, whether it's the schools, whether it's making into the judiciary, making these decisions that are overturning 50 plus years of law, established law, that are based on all kinds of cases before it. And so it's kind of scary, because there's a reason for the church and state separation. Years ago, several members of my family and people I knew were teachers, and they were Christians. They went to church. They believed in all. They were anti-abortion, all that. But it didn't matter. They did not want, when people started trying to integrate stuff in schools with religion, you have to open it up to everybody. And they said, we're here to teach, and you can't. There's a reason. There's church and state, and even the teachers themselves. There's a separation of church and state, and there's a reason for it. And you can't, even if it's the majority religion in an area, you can't push that. But now books are being banned, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, that's the latest one. Banning books. Stalin. That's Stalin. Burn all the books.
Yeah, maybe in some instances, certain ones shouldn't have been at certain libraries. I don't know, and I'm not going to get into that discussion.
Look, I know, but those are online. You don't need a library for that. Anybody that has Wi-Fi can go on and read anything they want to read.
Well, that's true these days. So to be able to try and censor it,
not going to happen.
Yeah, I get it for the elementary or whatever, but even then, it's not. That's up to the library. That's up to the schools. That's why there's a school board. That's why parents have always had, in that regard, parents have always had the right to talk to the school board, to have input, to meet with the teachers, to have talk. They've all these parents' Bill of Rights that states have been passing is kind of a joke, because parents always had those rights. That's what I don't think people understand. These parents always had the rights to all of this. So I don't quite understand about wanting to all of a sudden to make their public school into kind of a Christian academy of what they want to see. If that's the case,
they'll replace
go
people.
To a private school.
They'll elect people to the Board of Education in a town that are all conservative, that whatever way they vote is the way they vote.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but
there's not a diversity of opinion there.
Yeah, but it happened recently near where I live, not in my county, but this other school district adjacent. A bunch of conservative people, which is fine, but they decided that the school should have all these things that are Christian, which this is a public school. So, but they made all these decisions. They ended up, all kinds of teachers left. It caused a huge uproar in the school. Lawsuits were filed. It's taken a couple years, but the lawsuits came back saying, you can't do this. But
This
in the
is what
mean,
I'm saying. We're passing laws that 10 years from now will be told they'll be unconstitutional and taken off the books. But for 10 years, you're going to have to suffer your way through it.
yeah, and
That's where the
women right
problem is.
now, I don't know how, I would be scared to death to be in a state that am pregnant, that bans abortion outright if I have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
That's insane, and I can't get till I'm on death's door.
I don't know why
Um,
women, who are the majority in this country, aren't standing up and voting that, but they're not. They're
I'm
not.
surprised. I think it hasn't been a long enough time. Um,
They
because
marched in the streets to get this.
yeah, and women before Roe, I mean, people were, it had gone on long enough, back alley and
Yeah.
things, and even doctors that were willing to do it. If you had money, there were doctors that would do it, and they say you're getting your appendix out or whatever. It happened, or back alley stuff, and women were dying, and this went on for years. And it's like what I
So
see
that's
is,
where poor people are now. They're back in the alley again.
yeah,
Or
but
they're
what I'm
flying. They don't have the money to fly to some other state to get an abortion, so they drive, impacting their health. These are pregnant women. You want to put them in a car and drive them 1,000 miles? But that's what's going on. And the
well,
abortion pill is available, but for how long?
yeah. And at this point in time, I mean, they're judge shopping, which is also scary. The federal courts, the judicial, there's 11 districts, I believe, maybe 13. Apologize. But there's federal appellate courts, and that they're broken up into districts. Well, they know that this judge down here, who's an appellate judge, they're going to put it down there, and that's what they did with the second abortion pill, that for miscarriages. It's mostly for miscarriages. There's 2 pills that they give women if they're early enough to, it takes one and then you do the second one. And they got rid of the second one because somebody filed suit saying it's an abortion, and they did it in Texas. And they knew that the appellate judge was, gonna say, oh no, you can't do this. Well, then somebody filed suit in another district in the United States, and they said it's legal. So now that one's going to make its way up. So right now it's available if you're in the right state.
Yeah.
And so it's being still manufactured, but these businesses are going, excuse me, I don't know what to do. Do I make this drug and waste, and then it possibly being made illegal? So why should I even bother making it? And we already have a drug shortage for so many drugs in the United States. It's been all over the news. I mean, from kids' drugs
You would
to,
think there'd be enough drugs, but there aren't. Apparently, the little
and
niche
now
groups.
you're giving businesses, they can't even rely. This is the problem. Not only do people not have, confidence in the judiciary and what the law is going to be today, businesses don't. Well, businesses can't just switch things. We saw that happen during the pandemic. Everybody's, you can't just turn this on, or you can't just switch to this. Businesses, it takes 6 months. It takes changes of equipment, people, training, to change whether they're going to make a new drug or they're going to make something different. And you can't, it's not instantaneous. So,
and we had a president that said there wasn't a problem.
Yeah,
there wasn't a virus. It wasn't a problem. And thousands of people died before we got a new president who said, hey, we got a problem.
Yeah.
So we have a ex-president that's guilty in manslaughter for sure, murder maybe, because he did not allow these medicines to be manufactured and distributed in a timely manner. He delayed it. People died. Isn't that what we call murder or manslaughter of some kind or something? You didn't intend to kill, but you did. Yeah, it's manslaughter.
Which jurisdiction and what law you're talking about? Because every state's different, and even the federal laws are different. So
okay, we're on here about an hour, I think, or over an hour. So do we want to break and come back some other time, do another one, or do you want to continue with a new law that's being passed now that you're aware of that's illegal? And I'll just put it on as a separate video later.
Yeah, we find something new.
Right. Well, you will, because I don't know anything about it.
Well, the main takeaway from this is that the Supreme Court that makes laws in this country by deciding cases. And they're usually long and they're all based on sound previous cases that went before them. Now that's being changed and it's being changed on a whim. And
If
I
I
don't
give you enough money, will you look over that way?
yeah.
Here's some. If I give you what I have in this hand, will you look over that way for a while?
Yeah.
That's
And
what
I
I
mean
think's going on.
I don't yeah.
The conservative people are tired of not getting their way because they're in the minority. That's what happened with Roe v. Wade. They never gave up on it. They hated it. They wanted to undo it. And so the conventional manner didn't work. We'll just pay a few people and get it done.
Yeah.
I think there's a direct correlation between that man taking money and who else is on the Supreme Court that took money from conservatives who are on the record as being anti-abortion, and now all of a sudden it's overturned.
I mean, the Judicial Committee is looking into Crow and asking him to respond and answer some questions. And he's saying
he doesn't have to.
He's saying he doesn't have to. That doesn't mean eventually he won't have to. But what I'm saying is this is a whole new area.
And what he's saying is, I don't remember. I don't know. I don't know. We talked about other things. We never talked about that. What was the thing he said they talked a lot about?
Motown.
Motown. We talked about Motown. That's my favorite subject when I'm with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Then we talk about Motown. Yeah. I don't believe it.
Yeah. I mean, we're not even talking about the tax implications. If of him giving all this stuff, you can only give $17,500 a year to people. You do get a lifetime amount that you can give to people, but it has to be all recorded in that. I have no idea if he filled out all the tax forms. Like Thomas's mother right now, she's been living rent free. Well, that's income. Has she been reporting? Has he been reporting it, Crow?
No.
I don't know. That's up to them and the IRS, but I'm just saying, like,
here's the thing. People can always be paid under the table. You can buy someone an island somewhere and put it in somebody else's name, but it's really yours. They can give you cash in a bag. That happened during Watergate. During Watergate, they had all these slush funds of millions of dollars they passed out for the Watergate plumbers to go in and Daniel Ellsberg get his stuff because they wanted to prove there was something wrong with him because he was outing data about the war. They wanted to stop him, so they wanted his doctor's report on how sane he was, where they could use it against him. Interesting, though.
I know it's just, and it's not just Thomas. There's several other justices that have been accepting things now. If they don't pass the ABA, the American Bar Association, has been trying for years, and especially the last couple, and they've introduced legislation into Congress. But then it gets litigated. Can Congress oversee at least the judicial, the Supreme Court, and can they make them abide by the same rules of judicial conduct that all the other federal appellate court judges? And that means you can't take anything.
Times change. Someone in 1776 wouldn't have taken a bribe as readily as these guys are. The world changes. Now these guys, they don't seem to care. They want the money. They want the big car, the big house. Oh, I can't live on $264,000 a year. It's ridiculous. What am I supposed to? Basically, you sit around in a robe and do this or that. You're in a robe. You're doing this or that.
If you can't afford it,
$264,000.
If you can't afford to take that job, then don't take it. Go be a lawyer, a high priced lawyer in a DC firm, and don't take the Supreme Court role. I mean,
I'm just saying that the rules of fairness are. It's when you pay somebody under the cover to subvert what we the people want, that we voted in, Roe v. Wade, all these things. When you can subvert the will of the people through money, then we have a purchased system. It's paid for.
And,
And there's no honor in that.
it used to be the exception. Now it's kind of the rule. And it's kind of sad because then nobody has any confidence in the judiciary. Well, that's one of our tenets of democracy for this country. So what does that say? It's kind of really disheartening for people that have been in the legal field and have seen it and see what it's becoming. And it's all politics. Politics needs to be left to congressional, and even then, people still need to work together to come together for what's best for the country instead of just saying we're not.
It's not politics. It's politics plus money equal wrong, unfair, unlevel. If we just had these guys, they took their salaries and made the decisions based on law, we wouldn't be having this discussion. It's left open.
No.
They can take money from anywhere, and they don't have to report it. It's not reportable. And what bothers me is it has taken 32 years worth of money and not reported one single time that he took it. And doesn't that say something? If it's not illegal, why aren't you reporting it?
Yeah. There was a judicial conference that kind of oversees judges, and somebody made a complaint back in 2012 about Thomas. And it went nowhere in the judicial committee. And then they reported it back to this panel of judges that kind of oversee it. And they're supposed to report back to the judicial committee of the Senate and that oversees kind of this. And they just said, oh, we couldn't prove anything, that blah, blah, blah. And they just went away. And the person that made the complaint his term was over in the next month or two. And so on that judicial panel that kind of oversees the judges, and that's it. And the reason why you don't hear a lot about this or other judges or lawyers screaming about it is they're not allowed to. You're supposed to you're not supposed to criticize judges. You're not supposed to criticize opinions. You can argue against them if you're on the other side, but you can't. Anything that would bring people's, anything that would make people question the judiciary and its legitimacy. And, well, they're doing stuff now that prior justices, like you said, maybe it happened once in a great while, somebody, under the table 150 years ago, once in a while, but that was not the norm. That's not the norm that all the attorneys and people in the legal field got trained. And what's scary, the Supreme Court justices don't even have to be members of the bar. They don't have to go to law school. They just have to be law trained. But that's a holdover from, 250 years ago when there weren't law schools, hardly, or there weren't, universities. So they have to be law trained. And the last couple justices, it was in 1941 to 42. He only lived a couple years, so he may have been in World War II. I didn't look it up, but he did not have a law degree, but he passed the bar. See, years ago, you didn't even have to be you had to pass the bar, but you didn't necessarily have to go to law school, depending on what state and region you were in, because it may not even have been available. So it's kind of interesting, but they never went back and said, you have to be a member of the bar now. And as a member of the bar, of any bar, whether it's a state bar, the federal bar, whatever, you have to abide by the professional rules of conduct. And they don't have any of those rules.
We don't even know that the people who said they passed the bar actually showed up and took the exam. When I was in college, the people would go take exams for people all the time. They didn't know who they were. They just took the exam.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we ought to end here because this is pretty long. But this is my outside mystery guest, Skylar, and we're going to do some more of this as soon as she comes up with it. And I appreciate you coming on, and it's been great fun because I could never talk about this stuff. I wouldn't be able to. I mean, I've done my best, but I'm not what you are. Okay, so that's the end of this little video. I'll probably put this up in a couple of segments in the next day or so.
All right.
It's been great fun. It's been great fun. So let me end the recording, and just stay on the line. Okay?
Okay.
Uh,